Hello, my name is Deacon Paschal, and I am really excited because in just a few weeks' time I'll be ordained as the first British-born black priest of Brentwood Diocese. And while that's really exciting, the fact that I'll be the first British-born black priest of Brentwood Diocese tells a story itself. In a diocese where a significant majority or makeup, a significant contributor to the faith life in the diocese are from the ethnic communities, are from the black communities. I think it's significant that I would be the first black-born British priest of my diocese. And hopefully in the humble contributions that we're making to these videos, we can begin to address the issues of integration, of racial equality, so that we can really see the difference in years and in time to come. So my story begins in Stratford, East London, and the primary school that I went to was in Hackney, St Dominic's, predominantly black Catholic primary school. So I didn't have a sense of being black. I was just one of the students. I was in the majority. And that's highly contrast to my experience in secondary school, where I went to Trinity Catholic High School in Woodford Green. And there I was one of two, and at a point three black students within my form class. And so it was a very different experience. There was a sense of consciously being different, of being black, and all at an age where I was still discovering what it was to be myself, to be me, working out my identity. The Bishops' Conference in America, in their document Hearts Open Wide, describe racism as the conscious or subconscious feeling of superiority of one race over another race. Maybe not just the feelings, but convictions, attitudes, and sometimes even actions. But that idea of superiority of one race over another race. Did I feel that? I was made to feel inferior in any way? I was definitely different. There weren't many black teachers, and actually, maybe to compound the situation, the only other black members of staff that we would see during the day was the cleaners that came at the end of the day. So I felt that there were stereotypes and prejudices just because there was a minority. And so the importance of education, the importance of being able to share your story, I think, was a gap that wasn't often really well filled. Not for myself anyway. And even though I didn't have explicit experiences of feeling inferior, I definitely know it wasn't always a comfortable experience. That could have been assisted by better education, could have been better. I could have been better assisted perhaps in this area. I know my mum, for example, she found it very difficult. On several occasions, she has been the victim of racism. In one instance, she was told by a parent, I don't want my child to be in your class because I don't think they'll be able to understand you. And those sorts of comments, remarks, leave an impact on an individual. What does my faith say in terms of racism, and what does it speak into this situation at the moment? I'd say two things. The first thing is that we are made in the image and likeness of God. So we all deserve of all races, of all cultures, all deserve equal respect and dignity by virtue of our being made in the image and likeness of God. The second thing is what John Paul II spoke to some American natives back in 87, and he spoke about how the differences and the diversity enrich the human family. So I believe that by design and God's desire, I am a black man, and that is a particular manifestation of God's goodness, of God's image, and he wants me to share that reality wherever I go. It's an integral part of my makeup. It's who I am, and so I bring that. What am I saying there? That there is fundamental dignity and there is diversity to be celebrated. And I believe those two things, for me, my faith informs me when I think about race. What would I say to young black people in my care? Well, this is an issue that is deeply close to my heart because I believe, and I believe it's no exaggeration, that the Catholic Church bleeds out young, particularly black people, to either different churches or no faith at all, precisely because young black people may have not found a home in the Catholic Church. And that saddens me to say that, but I believe that is the real experience and reality for a lot of young black Catholics. You look at the clergy or you look at the leadership, and the black population isn't represented there. My own personal vocation story, I attribute part of that to seeing Father Albert O'Ferra, a priest of Westminster Diocese, being inspired by him as a vibrant black priest, that I was able to see the reality and begin to consider and be open to the reality of God maybe calling me. So I think that even just by looking at the church, we can see the symptoms of a lack of integration, which is particularly sad given that this is our nature as the Catholic Church. What would be my advice maybe for the young people in my care perhaps, or just generally young black Catholics? I watched a Denzel Washington interview about a film that he was making. And a point that he made quite humbly when responding to the interviewer was, we have to be ready to make the difference in our time. Humbly knowing that we won't eradicate racism, humbly knowing that we won't completely change the reality on the ground, we make the difference that we can in the time that we are given. And so he said, I act, I make films. And so I would say to young black Catholics that despite the statistics or the numbers in terms of representation, be assured that you have a particular gift. You manifest the beauty of God in a particular way in which you ought to discover and then share with the whole to enrich the human family, to enrich the family of the Catholic Church. What would I say in terms of the church and where we could go from here? I think there can be a desire to repair without repenting. And it was hugely interesting for me to see that in the church's history, we have supported slavery. We have supported laws that encourage that or that at least allowed that to happen. And I think so there needs to be an acknowledgement of the sins of our past. And once we do that, it helps us to move forward. That's an important thing to do. I would like to see priests, deacons, to preach more on the evil of racism, that we should know explicitly how contradictory this is to our faith, to who we are. I would also like to see the boldness or the humility, rather, to be recipients of the gospel from foreign priests. I say foreign, actually, I shouldn't use the word foreign. From brother priests, brother missionaries. You know, we went out, I'm the product of the missionaries who went to Nigeria, shared the gospel there. As a soon-to-be priest, what is most important for me is the salvation of souls. And that comes through the preaching of the gospel and the ministry of the sacraments. And so what we're talking about is absolutely vital, and I would love to see a church that is humble enough to strategically bring in missionaries who would fertilize the soil here to foster vocations, to foster the life of the church, that we ought to be humble enough to receive what we went out in history to give to others. It's time that the circle came full circle and went round and we become recipients. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to do this video because it means that it's a small contribution to a conversation that we all ought to be having. I would like to think that we can be bold enough to have the difficult conversations, to hear people's difficult experiences, because Christ alone holds the answer to the questions that we ask. He holds the healing to the wounds that we have. So we shouldn't be afraid to dig deep, to say the things that are uncomfortable, to speak about things that might seem hard, because Christ ultimately, in him, is our true reconciliation, and we should settle for nothing less than real reconciliation and proper celebrated integration of the different races of the children of God. Amen.